if you can hear some background noise, some clunking in the background, is because I've got a dog at my feet who's just found a stick. He's very, very pleased with himself. To be honest with you, I don't think it's a tremendous achievement because he found a stick underneath a tree, which is just there. You know what I mean? He's not found gold, put it that way. He thinks he has. He's gnawing on a stick. He's chewing on it. He's pleased with himself. And whilst he's doing that, he's not bothering me, which allows me to talk to you about Edson Alvarez. Well, not just Edson Alvarez, to be fair. Quite a few things at West Ham. Now, it's quite interesting, this latest news coming out about Edson Alvarez, which is that he's been told he can find himself another club. The interesting part of that is it sort of coincides with him not featuring at the weekend against Southampton. He should be grateful for that, I think, because anybody that did's probably tarnished with the old Southampton brush, aren't they, by now? Also, some rumours that he's had a falling out with Graham Potter, and that's one of the reasons he was left out of the squad. And also Fabrizio Romano tweeting that he'd been left out of the squad from illness or injury. Couldn't tell you what it was. It was either illness or injury. It doesn't matter at this point. Now that is actually quite relevant because Alvarez himself had posted quite a philosophical post on his social media, which sort of hinted at the fact that all was not well at West Ham, which I think is what prompted Fabrizio Romano to post something. Now, Fabrizio Romano is important in all this because he definitely at least knows Edson Alvarez or Edson Alvarez's agents in some way. He was the first one to break all the news about us being interested in him. He was the first one to get a picture of old Tim Stight and in the private jet arm around Edson Alvarez. He was the first one to break the news, if you remember, in the summer. Alvarez got injured in the Copa America. It was Mexico against Jamaica, if I remember correctly. And it was only that scuppered a sort of £50-ish million deal to Manchester United. So he'd broken all that news. So I think it's safe to say that Fabrizio Romano is the oracle, if you want. He's the source of good wisdom when it comes to Edson Alvarez. Now, ordinarily, and I've had a little look at Fabrizio Romano's Twitter feed or X feed. Not that you need to, and the reason I did that, it is not punctuated by updates on players' injuries. So therefore, why it's a bit conspiratorial. I get that, but you start scratching below the surface. Maybe if you seek and you shall find. So maybe if I'm looking for something suspicious, I'll find it. I think that's the sort of the case of anything. I just didn't see why Fabrizio Romano, who's a transfer in the know, would randomly be tweeting that a player that plays for West Ham United, and let's be fair, we're down the bottom of the Premier League, but we're not overly significant in all the stories that are going on at the moment, be they Champions League or league titles or transfers. It's not a big story. I just found it a little bit odd, and I think it might have been a case of my doth think the lady protests too much. So clearly there was something going on there. One thing I do know, and it's, as much as I've heard from my own sources, I do trust absolutely on transfers, is that apparently he's been told that he can leave West Ham. His agent has been instructed, or something close to that he can find another club. And I do wonder if actually, even though I'm telling you the news today and I learnt the news today, if that's not new news, maybe that was what all that was about. Maybe, just maybe, you join the dots here. Maybe he learnt that. Maybe he kicked off. Maybe there was a falling out. Maybe that's why he wasn't out the squad. I don't know. I think, look, all of that is pure conjecture. But I do believe that Alvarez has been told he can leave. The one thing I would say is that there were a lot of people in that situation. When I spoke to a source today on the situation, I was told very much that there are a number of players in that. And clearly they haven't all fallen out with Graham Potter or anything like that. And from what I can hear, Graham Potter is not particularly attritional. He's very, very well liked. So it could just be that actually they're two separate things. The simple, maybe just a boring, simple story is the one. And that is that he just doesn't see him as part of his plans for next season. He doesn't suit his style of football or whatever. And you can sort of understand that. You do look at the West Ham midfield and you think, I can make a case for all of them, with the exception of Lucas Paqueta not really being in anyone's midfield, because I just think in the modern games, have a load of players like that, no one with any pace is probably not doing you any favours at all. So I can understand it. Maybe it's just that. Maybe it's just your surplus to requirements. I'm not going to use you next season, mate. You can go and find yourself a club. And he was injured. Maybe that is the truth. But clearly, he's not going to be here next season. Can forget all of that, any notion that we might get that £50 million that was once on the table. It's funny enough, it was at the start of this season. It's amazing how quickly his value has dropped. But to be fair, it only really mirrors the West Ham slide, doesn't it? We've gone from sort of expectation, I think, and spending 150 million, and it wasn't West Ham fans that claimed it, to be fair, winning the transfer window to be in a truly awful football team, but who certainly were in no position to command any significant money for Edson Alvarez. And to be honest with you, I do wonder if we'd even get, what do we pay, £32 million, something like that, £32 million to Ajax for Edson Alvarez. I'm not so sure we get that money back. But what is clear is that there's definitely a big drive from the club to try and bring in some funds, and it would appear that to do anything, we all might have nuanced differences on how many players you think need to be brought in, but whether you think Graham Potter's right for the club or wrong for the club, or whether you think he's going to be here or he's not going to be here or anything like that, West Ham still need a lot of players. And that's only going to happen by us selling and moving on a lot of players. We might have money there for one player, but we ain't got money there for 7-8 players or anything like that. Just in terms of the argument one, I can't see it. Maybe the truth is just somewhere in the middle. In many respects, I wish that Graham Potter was more argumentative and just a bit more attritional, really. You constantly hear that he's a nice guy and whatnot. And maybe, just maybe, that whole Fulkrug situation, maybe that plays its part. Myself and Gio, when we were talking on the player ratings, and we did which is over on our Patreon channel, by the way. Link is in the description below. 7-day free trial if you want to go and check it out. Lots of additional West Ham content and non-West Ham content on there. Actually, naughty content, non-West Ham naughty content. Not that naughty, to be fair. He was saying and he mentioned it in his video, I know, that there seems to be almost two different ways that people were taking the Nicholas Fulkrug rant, if you want to call it that. That some believed that he was not throwing Potter under the bus, that he was critical of Potter, and some thought it was in defence of Potter. I certainly, when I first heard it, I thought, how can you make this big critique of the tactics and everything else, and it not be a criticism of Potter? And I just thought at the end he probably reined it in a little bit, because he thought, maybe I'm going too far. Because if I remember it correctly, it was almost like he was prompted by the journalist, and then it was like Potter said, "Oh no," he said, "the manager's been quite clear with his instructions." So that was my take on it. The other take was, it is actually, take it as you find it, take it at face value. He was saying nobody is following the manager's instructions. Neither are good. Neither are good, because if the first one is true, the one that I initially believed, and I'm quite happy to have my mind changed on it, and it did. I had a good long think about it once Gio said that, and now I'm just not sure. If he was critical of Potter's tactics, then we have a problem, because we have a manager with crap tactics, right? If the opposite is true, and he was basically saying, you lot, you're not listening to the manager's tactics, then we've also got a problem, because we have a manager who is not assertive enough to get his tactics across, or forced them. Certainly there are a number of managers I'm thinking in the Premier League who I'm quite sure when every coach or every manager goes into a new club, he's got a set of tactics that he wants to get over, some ideas he wants to impress on the players. That's a skill, isn't it? Being able to do that is a skill. Yeah, I just wonder if I do worry a little bit that he's maybe not got the I don't know, the attritional, argumentative intent to try and push those. It's just authority, isn't it? I'm not trying to look for fancy words for it. It's just a bit of authority. Does Potter have the authority and the communication skills to force his opinion through? I don't doubt he's got communication skills. Of course he has. He's a really, really good communicator. He's lucid. You see this in his press conferences. I'm not saying you've necessarily got to fear your manager, but you need to have something about you to get the message across. So either one is not particularly good. For that reason, I just can't see if he's not attritional and he's not authoritative, then he's highly unlikely to be falling out with people. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the falling out with Alvarez stuff. What is clear, and fiver to a charity are your choice. By the way, not everyone. One fiver, not a fiver to each individual one of you's charity, because that would be so charitable I'd bankrupt myself. But a fiver to someone's charity if Edson Alvarez is here next season. I suspect he won't be. I'll still pay £5 to charity. By the way, I'm not a mean, tight-fisted, horrible person that don't like charity. No, my point is, I look quite a bit to have a little cheeky sporting bet that this is true, and Edson Alvarez won't be here next season. You've only got to look at the evidence of your own eyes as well. It's like with the whole Thomas Souček thing, which you don't need to necessarily believe that Everton are in for him or West Ham won't give him a new deal. You just got to look at what's happened under Potter. Potter doesn't fancy him. That's enough. And he is, irrespective of whether you would like Thomas Souček to continue at West Ham or not, you would concede that he is going to play first-team football for somebody and deserves to play first-team football for somebody. So with that in mind, if he's not fancied by the current manager, you can absolutely understand why he's going to be getting a transfer, particularly when West Ham need money. Anyway, so there you go. That's the news of the day. Edson Alvarez has been told, you can go.